Welcome to the Elevate Podcast, your resource for all things business, brand, and leadership. We are excited you have decided to join us today.
Episode number 29. Here we are. Robert Kalin here with the Elevate Podcast, here with my friends.
Hey, Mike Newman with you. Great to be here.
Hey, everybody. Tony Frasconi. What episode is this? Episode 29?
Episode 29, yeah.
One away from 30.
29 weeks of consistency, 29 weeks of plugging away, of staying at it, of adding value. We are so excited today for this conversation. We're going to be talking about communication, really, and how it's key. But you guys, what happens when we lose the key? Have you guys ever lost the set of keys and you had to get to work and you're just like super frustrated? Everything's on the line. You're going to be late. Maybe you didn't give yourself enough time to drive there without hitting all of the green lights, and you know that never happens. Like, what happens when communication gets lost? Because communication is so essential to everything that we do as leaders and in business and with our branding. So that's what we're going to be talking about today, you guys. Buckle up your seatbelts.
All right. So we got all kinds of communication that happens every single day, right? I mean, you got bunch of emails, you got conversations that you're taking place with your colleagues at work. Maybe you've had an argument with your kids on the way to work when you're dropping them off at school. It's all these different things that take place. And how do we get out of this area of misunderstanding? I'm sure nobody has conflicts with people they work with. But if you did have a conflict with somebody you worked with, or maybe there was an idea that somebody had that you needed to communicate with, that's probably not going to work. What are some good ways, Tony, that you found that's been effective for you?
Well, for me, I think the keys get lost so fast when we don't communicate with respect and integrity for the other person that's listening, that we're trying to communicate with. So we're not being thoughtful about the actual other party. Yeah. That can go south pretty quick.
And not just with an assumption of being thoughtful, right? Like actually being thoughtful.
Yes.
We come to conversations all the time with a bunch of assumptions, but are we listening to what they really have going on?
Exactly.
Right. And to add to that, are we being thoughtful, but are we being present as well? Or am I just here saying my piece and no matter what you guys say, it doesn't really matter. I've already made up my mind and this is what we're going to do. And I'll just let you talk and then say, here's where we're going.
And I'm just waiting for you to finish so I can go, Mike.
Yeah.
That's not what we're talking about communication. It's not about giving direction. It's about understanding.
Yeah. So good. And you know what? I want to encourage everybody out there. You probably just had something pop into your mind with what you've got going on in life. The number one thing I want you to pull away from this with communication is that it is more skill than natural talent. You guys can improve in this. You can get better with some effort. And that is a place that you should be focused on for your personal growth, is just focusing on your communication skills. How can you get better today? Because this conversation matters. It matters in everything that we do in our personal relationships and in business and everything. So with all that,
you say that, Robert, because the fact that it's a skill, something we can grow in, something we can take an entire episode, and unpack is really the reason we're doing it today. Because for me, I remember a few years back, I was having a meeting. I was meeting with one of my direct reports, and I was talking about leadership and and then it's part of me thinking I'm a good leader, right? I said, okay, so what's some feedback you want to share with me? So she talked about communicating, and she said, Tony, communication is a skill just like leadership, that you can get better at. And she's like, you're a really good leader, but sometimes you don't communicate effectively. And man, just a gut punch, right? Yeah. But if you can get your ego aside and actually go, wow, okay, where did that come from? Where are the spots that I can improve? You actually can dig in and improve and get better. And I think that's exactly what you're talking about.
You know, in our last
Absolutely.
episode, we talked about awareness. And sometimes our awareness needs to be just what you said. Somebody needs to tell us, that for us to become more aware. And then you've got to make a decision. Am I going to take action on what that person had to say or not? And even when we talk about this whole thing about, understanding the keys to communication, we can think that we're being really clear about what we want, but the other person, through their own experience and own filter, interprets it completely different, even though we're saying the same things in English, and so oftentimes we think we're clear, but we're not, because we use what some people call fuzzy language. So in our world of education, we have, achievement. Well, what's achievement mean? And we could say, well, Robert, what's achievement mean to you?
Accomplishing a goal. Yeah, accomplishing a goal for sure. I mean, achievement is checking off, like, I just did that. Done.
Okay. So Tony, in your experience, is that what achievement means?
Achievement is money in the bank, guys. Come
Wait,
on.
Can I
Come on, you guys know that.
Can I add that achievement is winning?
Okay. Wow. Yeah. And so we would say we want to achieve, something that's winning, that's putting money in the bank, that's checking things off the list. But for somebody else, that might be their achievement, might be just making it to work on time.
Yeah.
That's the big hurdle they have. And so sometimes we have a standard that's way up here of what we want, and the person right now is focused on just some of the basic things that are necessary.
Yeah.
And then as leaders, how do we get them to understand that they can move and make them aware to become better communicators, become better employees? And it's all about, a lot of it's about just how we treat them.
So good.
Well,
I think when I think about this for a second, with communication being key, and what happens when we lose the keys, can I just say we actually never lose the keys, because we are communicating all the time, no matter what. What happens is we lose the awareness, we lose the thought behind it. And when I had said earlier about being more skilled in natural talent and that we can grow in it being really important, the other thing that's really important with it is that it goes beyond words. When I think about my kids, if my actions don't line up with the things that I say and the way that I communicate it, they're automatically going to do what I'm doing, not what I'm saying. Right? I saw somebody do this. If you guys aren't watching this, I'll explain it in a second. But if you made a fist up on your hand like this, and everybody here, just go ahead and make a fist really quick up by your face, and then put it next to your chin. Okay, Tony, you did what I said, or did what I did, not what I said. You just put your fist up to your cheek, not your chin. I said chin, right? Mike knew it was coming, but it goes beyond words. The things that we actually do matter every single day, more so than I think the things that we say. And I think a lot of times we think communication is the things we say, when the reality is it's the actions that we take.
Right. And the other side of that too is our ability to listen. Communication's two ways.
It is.
And so often as a leader, we think if I just tell people what to do, they're going to get it done exactly how we want it done.
Yes.
And so, we might say, we want this painted blue, but we all know there's different shades of blue. Looking at our screen here, I have on one blue, and Robert has on another blue, and behind is another blue, and Tony has a shade of blue on. So which one of those are the acceptable color to paint?
Yeah.
And if you're just a non artistic person like me, you would just find something that was blue that was in a can and get busy. But if you were somebody who was an interior designer, you might come back with, hey, I got like 7 options of blue for you to look at. Which one do you want?
Yeah,
and
and I
so,
think constantly testing the environment around just what you're saying is key, and the how behind how you do that. There's lots of different ways you test the environment for if your message on what you think is getting across to people is actually happening. One could be just straight outcome, is what you asked a direct report to do. Is that exactly what was done? The other could be some kind of a feedback loop where there is direct channels back to you with questions or clarifiers about what the communication was. And if you've ever worked with somebody that is a communications expert, like that is their job, it can actually be super frustrating. If you're somebody like me, that is just like, I've said it 5 different ways. How else can I say this? And there's always another clarifier and another layer to pull back, because their goal, their job, they know they're doing their job well. If there's no questions at the end, it's that crystal clear. And so there's no game of telephone. And there's, so from getting the message right and clear to the audience that you're in front of, and then to also have those loops coming back to you to say, hey, this is the blue I thought, not this aqua blue that you had out there, and figuring that out. So it is a really complex issue. There's whole careers around just being a communications expert. And it's such a crucial thing. But I think what you said there, Robert, too, is great around, hey, you never lose the keys. There's always an opportunity to get back on track.
Yeah, absolutely.
So you ever have a padlock and you got the key to that padlock somewhere, and then you find a bunch of keys and you try all these different keys to see if it'll open up, and it still doesn't open up? Well, that's the way it is sometimes, I think, too, when we're working with some people. It's not that it's not that they don't understand what we're saying. It's that we've already said something that they quit listening to us. And so we got the wrong key. And so in the DISC stuff that we do, and if you haven't ever taken a DISC assessment, there's a whole thing about the right words to say to different types of personalities. And so if you use the wrong entry point, okay, and I think maybe I told this story before, that I had a person that I would go to get reports from for board meetings, and the person, I would walk in and say, hey, do you have this report? And they would say, good morning, Mike. And I'd say, good morning, do you have this report? And they'd say, good morning, Mike. Well, that person was a people person. I'm a very task-oriented individual, and all they wanted was a brief conversation of, hey, how's it going today? What are you working on? And as soon as I understood that is what they needed from me as a leader, then it went really easy. Hey, how's it going today? Great. What'd you do last night? Yeah, blah, blah, blah. Okay. Hey, I need this report, well, when do you need it by? And the conversation was completely different because I found the key that worked for that person.
So true.
Other people, you could go in with the way, if I'm working with a task person, go in, hey, do you got this report? Yeah. What time do you need it? 10 o'clock. Okay, I'll have it to you. Okay, great. See you later. But those were 2 task individuals working on things. But people-oriented individuals, start with people first, is going to really make a difference in the communication part of working with them.
Yeah, and I think, this goes back to an awareness thing. You have to be aware of who you are as a leader. Are you a task-oriented person, people-oriented person? Are you more outgoing or more reserved? And at the same time, you also need to be aware of other people and understanding of those other people and how they need you to lead them. It's an interesting common theme that, every episode we're kind of hitting on this awareness. I think there's something bigger to that. I don't think it's just us. I think there's listeners out there who are picking up on this thread as well, and really getting something out of it. Something's happening inside of you. So I'm excited to hear about it. I'm excited to see what's coming from that. What other keys do you guys have? What other things that could we leave the audience with? Big takeaways.
So one thing we haven't talked about is about tone.
Okay. Yes.
Have anybody ever tell you, I don't like your tone? It's not what you're saying, it's how you're saying it.
Yeah.
And I'll make a confession. I get in trouble at home with that often with my wife. She doesn't say, watch your tone, but I can tell I just said something. The tone I used wasn't right. Now, it's taken me 41 years to learn that, and I'm still trying to get better at it, but it's about the tone that we use. And so when she made me aware that I was doing, I don't know what my tone was, but it wasn't right. Then I start watching, okay, how am I saying this?
Yeah.
Because again, I'm a task person. Let's just get this thing done and knocked out, and she's a people person. And so I need to make an adjustment, and I've been working at it, and it's in my awareness, and I'm trying to take action on it. And maybe I'll make you guys be my accountability partner, like we talked about last time.
Well, there's no better accountability, Mike, than to get your wife here on the show one week.
That's right.
For us, me and Robert, to just grill her about it.
So Patty,
yeah.
Patty, you're talking about tone here. When Mike asked, "Is the kitchen done yet?" Yeah, no, you're so true. Tone is something that oftentimes we allow our emotions to get the best of us, and we aren't present in the moment and leading the moment. We're allowing it to lead us. And, again, going back to that awareness of, hey, am I letting my emotions get the best of me right here? Do I need to just take a minute, take a breath, and then come back to this? Is this going to be a heated conversation? I don't know. I when you were talking, Mike, I was just thinking of the different ways that you can say the same thing. Like I just said, hey, Mike, are you done with that saw you borrowed yet? I could say that. Are you done yet? Or I could say, are you done yet? Like, come on, man. It's been long enough. I need to get that thing back, right? And the different way that I say that actually invokes a different response.
Mm-hmm.
And
well, I got some secret sauce for both of you guys. You ready?
Let's go.
It's a saying I still always say, but we used to, when I was in human resources as an executive, we used to say it every day almost. And that was, common sense is not common. Mm-hmm. And so we think, hey, they should know that. Common sense, right? It's not common. And so if you can keep that forefront of mind, that there's probably, you need to say whatever, communicate whatever kind of message you're trying to get across in a bunch of different ways to make sure it hits home, because it's not going to be common sense for everybody. Mm-hmm. And then the second thing I would say is, how about just bringing some humor and some lightness into our world? I think that was a great example, Robert, of just hey, are you done yet? Or hey, are you done yet? Just so that tone is important for me with my kids. When they know I'm getting frustrated, I'll start. There was this rap song a while back. It was like, y'all gonna make me lose my mind up in here. Up. I don't know if you guys remember that, but anyway, I'll look at them and I'll be like, y'all gonna make, just start rapping that song. And they know Dad's getting frustrated, even though I'm kind of making light of it.
Sure. And
so there's a way to do tone, and there's a way to be serious, but not always in a angry way.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's a great way to lead people too, is we got to have humor. We've got to be able to joke around. We can't take things so seriously. We can't take ourselves so seriously. We have to laugh. We got to laugh at ourselves. I mean, everybody else is.
Yeah. I think that's a good place to end. Laugh at yourself for a while.
Yeah. Awesome. Well, you guys, we will see you on the next episode number 30, coming right up. We'll see you next week. Take care. God bless.
Elevate Podcast. Out.
Like.
Thank you for joining us. Our hope is this episode has been helpful for you today. If it's impacted you in some way, we encourage you to share it with someone. To receive a direct notification of our next episode, click the follow button on your favorite app or platform. You can also watch each episode on YouTube. The links are in the description. If you want to connect with us on a deeper level, go to countercultureleadership.com/resources. We'll see you next week on the Elevate Podcast.